This is Susan Bradley for AskWoody.com, and this is Tasks for the Weekend, July 31st, 2021. Today I'm going to revisit two bugs that are not yet patched, and I'm going to talk about the two different camps, home users and business users, and how I'm going to recommend two different treatments. So you've heard about the Print Spooler bugs that are proof of concept. They've been discussed already. They're going to be discussed even more this coming week. There's a security conference in Las Vegas called Black Hat, and it's followed up by a second security conference called DEF CON. People are going to talk about these bugs, and you'll probably hear more about them. And I'm still of the opinion that home users should hold back, because I do think that Microsoft is going to patch these bugs, and I think the workarounds, which are to disable the Print Spooler, can be a bit cumbersome, especially if you do print in home setting. So I'm personally keeping an eye on what I do and what I click on, but I'm not taking additional action at this time on my home computers. Now, if you are a home user and you never ever print, I don't see a problem with disabling the Print Spooler service if you don't use it. And I'll show you how to do that in just a bit. If you do print, and I'm one that prints at home, I'm actually not disabling the service because I do print, and I think I can counter it with my normal, just steadfast, knowing where I go to click, knowing what I do, and not seeing a large amount of attacks using it, especially for the home end user category. So let me show you how to pause or how to turn off the Print Spooler service. What you want to do is type in the search box services, and you want to look for the services app. It's going to look like this. You want to scroll down to the P section. You want to open it up. You want to make it disabled, and you want to hit stop and apply. And again, only do this if you do not print on your home PC. If you print to Adobe PDF, if you print to a printer, you cannot turn off the Print Spooler. You're going to need it turned on. So I recommend that you don't do this unless you're a business. Now, if you're a business, your risk factor is different. You want to go to, especially on domain controllers where that Print Spooler service is running, and disable it. Again, in the search box, type in services, find Print Spooler, and disable it. As a business, you should determine who really needs to print. And if certain people in certain roles don't need to print, disable that ability. They don't need to print. Now, what about the other unpatched bug that you've probably heard in the news? It's called the permission bug. What this has to do with is there's an account called SAM, and it's where hash values of passwords are saved. And normally, the SAM account is protected while the operating system is in use. So while the passwords are stored in that SAM account, an attacker can't gain access to the SAM, that location. Now, if you've made a backup of using certain backup software, it will do what's called a shadow copy. And attackers can go after that shadow copy, and should they find that SAM file left behind, because that shadow copy doesn't have the same permission as the main operating system does, attackers can go in there and get the hash value of credentials, and they can use that to then pretend to be you in the system and gain more access. Now again, I don't see it in active use against home users at this time. There's a cert link that I've got in the post, and has the steps to determine if you're vulnerable and if you need to take action. once again, for home users, because I'm not seeing it under active attacks, I don't think a home user should take action. I think it's too important to have shadow copies. I think it's too important to have backups. And I'd rather not disable the backup, disable shadow copies, turn it back on, as is the recommended workaround, because it might put you at risk. So again, for home users, I don't see that you are at risk for this attack. Totally different scenario for business users, especially for those that are government, especially those that are related to the military. You might be targeted. So for you guys in business, it's a totally different matter. And for that, you do want to check out that Windows 10 gives unprivileged user access to System32 config files. For businesses, you want to evaluate. Not everybody is vulnerable. It's only some machines that have this issue. So you'll want to evaluate and see if you are vulnerable to this. So going down the recommendations from this KB, you first want to test to see if you have these shadow copies. And I'm going to copy that. And what you want to open up is what's called an administrative command prompt for this one. So you type in CMD in the search box, right mouse click, and click in as Run as Administrator. We're then going to click on that VSS list admin. Whoops, let's try that again. I didn't get it copied right. Now, if I have a shadow copy, which I do, I am vulnerable. While the attackers can't go after the Windows System 32 config files while the machine is operational, they can go against this shadow copy location and take it from there. I back up my machine. I think shadow copies are very important, so I don't want to mess with them. The next thing you want to do is come down here and see if the system is vulnerable, again, from a non-privileged command prompt, meaning just a plain old type in command. Again, I'm going to copy it, type in command. I'm just going to click on it as is, and I'm going to click on that. And if I'm vulnerable, again, you'll see it just like that. But here I am at home, and I'm not going to take actions. Why? Because again, I'm not seeing active attacks against users. The attackers want to use this in business settings, not against individuals. It's too juicy of a target for businesses. It's not juicy target for individuals. So for purposes of home users, I'm going to recommend that if you do see yourself vulnerable, just wait until the patch. I anticipate that Microsoft will be coming out with a patch either next second Tuesday. They may do it a little bit early. We don't know. But I don't see the risk at this time to be that great for home users. For businesses, again, you'll want to take these 2 steps to see if you're vulnerable, possibly take action. Especially you may want to risk evaluate, determine who in your office is at risk and who is not. So again, don't panic. Just think in terms of, would an attacker want to go against a home user? And I don't see it being used in active attacks this time. If I start to see active attacks, you'll be the first to know, but I don't see any active attacks at this time. So again, if you're a business, review the impact. If you're a home user, I would say just sit tight. Microsoft will be coming up with a fix. Last but not least, have a great week. The newsletter comes out tomorrow. We're still at DEF CON 4. I don't want you to install any optional updates this time, just the main updates. And then, of course, I approve in 21H1. So if you've not yet installed that, if you're still on 1909, by all means, make sure that you get on 21H1. Until next time, this is Susan Bradley for AskWoody.com.